The Baltimore chapter of the NCAAP, the Reverend Kobe Little, says that people should never forget the hard work that migrants perform.
We express our condolences,
Le damos el pésame a las familias,
our love,
nuestro amor,
our appreciation
nuestro aprecio
of the sacrifices
por el sacrificio
that have been made by so many in immigrant communities.
Ukraine's armed forces say Moscow has launched a large-scale attack on energy infrastructure.
Here in Kharkiv in the north, it is a week since the biggest ever attack on the energy system. Parts of this city are still without power for up to 6 hours a day. Cafes and small businesses can operate on generators, but industry is struggling. Speaking to the BBC, the mayor described the damage as very serious and suggested it will take at least 2 months to restore full power supply. That's only if nothing else is hit in the meantime. But there are now multiple air alerts every day, often lasting for several hours.
That's the BBC's Sarah Rainsford reporting a lot of excitement surrounding the upcoming solar eclipse, but fake eclipse glasses pose a risk to the public. We get more details from Tasha Stevens.
The American Astronomical Society says real solar eclipse glasses block almost all visible light. Chinese companies have been using the names of reputable American companies, but the fake glasses do not list the address of the real company on them. If you can see through the lens of the glasses or see light, they are not the real deal.
That's correspondent Tasha Stevens reporting. This is SRN News.
The following program is sponsored by the law offices of Patrick L. Smith. This is the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. Get ready with your legal questions and call Patrick now. 877-943-9673. Again, that's 877-943-9673. The law office is open. And now your host, Patrick Smith.
Hello and good morning, Florida. Welcome to another edition of the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. I'm your host, Attorney Patrick Smith. And as our very dramatic music crescendos and ends, I'll tell you today is Saturday, March 30th, and we'll be with you for the next hour to fulfill our primary mission here on the Attorney Patrick Smith Show, answering any and all of your legal questions. 877-943-9673. That's your live and toll-free studio line. Give us a call now. Open studio lines will get you screened and right on the air to talk with me, yours truly, your local Central Florida Attorney Patrick Smith. Offices throughout the state to best serve you. And lots of thank yous to give out after last week's very special. We do 2 big remote broadcasts a year, and they would not be possible without the amazing production team here. And that's, of course, spearheaded by none other than Mr. Joe Weaver, who got up super early last Saturday morning to be on site there at Stetson University's DeLand campus and make our remote possible from this year's 52nd annual Model United States Senate. So lots of thank yous to give out for that. Of course, a very special thank you to all of the students who participated in this year's Model Senate. Thank you to Senators Nick DeCiglia, Jay Collins, and Jonathan Martin for all appearing on the show. And of course, our great Commissioner of Agriculture, Wilton Simpson, who took time out of his very busy schedule to call in and encourage these next generation of legislators. And another special shout out to Senators Collins and Martin. They were actually recognized this past week for being 2 of the most productive members of our state legislature this past year, each passing 18 pieces of legislation this past Senate session. So a couple of very, very busy legislators there. And, Senator Martin, having to be a very good family friend of mine, getting an inside glimpse at how hard these state senators work and sort of seeing it firsthand and the sacrifice that it takes on their personal life. So a very special shout out and thank you to Senators Jay Collins and Senator Jonathan Martin for working so hard to pass 18 pieces of legislation, but a thank you to all of our senators who work hard for the state and our members of the House as well. And speaking of Model Senate, joining us in studio, Lexi the intern. Good morning, Lexi.
Good morning.
So Lexi was the Model Senate coordinator, and we were just talking off the air you are putting together a document for your heir apparent. We have another student who will be taking over coordinating duties. And you said, how many pages is this document you're giving the new student coordinator?
This is going to be about 15 to 20 pages once it's fully done. It's going to include everything from passwords, how to order the banners, the pens we get, how to create a bill book, everything that they need.
Yeah, I told Lexi, I said it's impressive how well everything went at Model Senate. There are so many moving parts: the travel, the judges, the witnesses for the Saturday morning hearings for the different committees, but all of it went off flawlessly, and that's because of you, Lexi. You did an amazing job as the Model Senate coordinator. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I absolutely love Model Senate, so this was an honor.
Well, and the thing that was infectious to me was all the kids who were seniors who were leaving after participating for 3 years who said immediately that they wanted to come back in some capacity. That tells me the spirit of Model Senate's alive and well, and the fact that people still want to be part of it even after they've graduated and left the university. That means a lot to me, and that's a large testament to how hard you've worked to make it such a great event, Lexi. So thank you again.
Well, thank you. We all want to come back as judges.
Yeah, that's true. And I thought about that too. I was like, well, there's got to be a rule about being a judge. And I thought it would be fantastic that, sort of a right of first refusal goes to the senators who won most outstanding senator. Now, out of all the senators competing, there are outstanding senator awards. There's actually 4 of those, but then there is one most outstanding senator. Now, last year's winner, a young lady by the name of Amy Trask, who was, I forget who her senator was last year. Do you recall who that was, Lexi?
Senator Blumenthal.
She played Senator Blumenthal. This year she was Senator Elizabeth Warren, and she did a great job again this year, but she's actually declared for public office and is running for state house up in Alachua County. And I thought about that. I think that would be a good thing for the organization committee to consider. If you're a former most outstanding senator, you've got a shot to come back and have a right of first refusal to serve as a judge, because who better to judge the next best senator than someone who's won that award? And speaking of someone who's won that award, the gentleman to your right is Mr. Christian, and I'm going to say it wrong. So Christian, say your last name again.
Christian Berberk.
Christian Berberk is this year's most outstanding senator. And I promise I'm not going to let this turn into a second Model Senate show, although I love Model Senate and I could easily fill this entire show with just talking about Model Senate. Christian was this year's senator and most outstanding senator for 52nd annual Model Senate. And Christian, tell everybody which senator you were portraying.
Of course, Patrick. I played Senator Tommy Tuberville from the great state of Alabama.
And former college football coach,
Yes,
of
yes.
course, for, I believe, the Auburn University. Is that right?
Yeah, Auburn and a couple other.
Yeah, hopped around a little bit after that. So I will tell you this. I saw Christian day one, and I didn't tell you this. I said, Christian, when I saw him get up and speak for the first time, I said, this young man is the most similar to me when I was participating in Model Senate. Just the way you could shoot from the hip so comfortably from the floor and engage in sort of that highest level of conversation where it's not just getting up and reading a speech, which a lot of kids did that, and it was a win for them. But I never saw you walk up with a piece of paper in your hand. You seemed to know what you were going to say, and you were engaging in persuasive argument, and you were giving real-time rebuttal to senators who had just spoken, and it was just natural for you. And you have absolutely zero background whatsoever in political science, correct?
Correct, yes.
So tell everybody the main reason why you decided to participate in this year's Model Senate.
Yeah, so last year, Lexi always has run the event, and it's a big thing for her, so I've always wanted to show my dedication to her by doing the Model Senate. And I also had a close friend who won one of the smaller awards last year, Wyatt Seiss, who couldn't compete this year. But I told him I would do it this year, so I was going to go through with that promise. And I'm someone who likes to stay engaged with politics, although, again, it's not my strong suit in a very academic sense. But I've always been interested in it, and it's something that was really fun to participate in this year.
So what is your major, by the way?
I'm a biochem and molecular and cellular double major, basically just pre-dental sciences.
So you want to be a CPA, obviously. No. So he's actually lined up for dental school. You're going to be a dentist.
Yes.
And so you've been accepted to dentistry school. You're lined up for that. And that's what I love about Model Senate, because sometimes you have these standout senators that just come out of nowhere and they're chemistry majors, or they've just got an accounting background, or just something out of left field. They're a physics major. And they just sort of have this natural talent. And our head judge, Dr. Ann Hallam, who's been a political science professor for probably, I don't know, 30 or 40 years, during her remarks said, hey, if the whole dentistry thing doesn't work out, you really ought to consider a career in politics. And I want to echo that, because they can't teach what you've got. You've either got this ability or you don't, and you've got it. So I congratulate you again on winning this year's most outstanding senator award. And full disclosure, also Lexi's boyfriend.
Yes.
So yes, and future fiance.
Yes.
Matter of
yes.
fact, any questions you want to ask Lexi live? I'm just kidding. I'm not going to put you on the spot like that. 877-943-9673. That's your live and local number to get Christian out of some hot water. 877-943-9673. Give us a call now, live and local, with your legal questions. And again, thank you to everyone who supported Model Senate, all the kind messages about it. And we will be doing it again next year. So stay tuned for that. And we will be happy to keep you apprised as we get a little bit closer. And by the way, if you do have a undergrad, and we are now accepting a small amount of high schoolers to participate in Model Senate. So a few seats set aside every year now for participating outstanding high school students as well. So next year we'll announce when registration, if you have someone who would like to participate in the 53rd annual Model Senate, we will be announcing that. But to talk to us today, 877-943-9673, 877-943-9673. Turning our attention to new Florida law news. Our very, very busy governor has been signing rather rapidly a series of bills. We're going to talk about a couple here today. According to NBC, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signs bill that bans children under 14 from having social media accounts. According to NBC, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed a bill on Monday that will prohibit children younger than 14 from joining social media in the state. Those who are 14 or 15 will need a parent's consent before they join a platform. I have a question about that. Why 14 and 15? Why is 16 okay? You don't need a parent's permission. You're still a minor at that point. Why wasn't it 18? I'm kind of curious why the committee and the legislature picked 14 or 15 to be the cutoff and not just 18. The House Bill 3 also directs social media companies to delete the existing accounts of those who are under 14. Now, here's the kicker of this bill. Companies that fail to do so could be sued on behalf of the child who creates an account on the platform. The minor could be awarded up to $10,000 in damages, according to NBC. And that's interesting too. Why wouldn't it be awarded to the parents? Why would it be awarded to a minor? So I don't know. Maybe that's saying the parents of the minor child, but it says the minor could be awarded up to $10,000 in damages. According to the bill, companies found to be in violation of the law would also be liable for up to $50,000. But wait, there's more, per violation. $50,000 per violation, as well as attorney's fees and court costs. So I guess my initial thought, I like the spirit of the bill. I think we should protect our children. I think that's probably one of our highest and most precious goals here in the state of Florida, is protecting our most vulnerable among us, which would certainly describe the children of the great state of Florida. The concern I have is enforceability. I really think that, aren't we just one button click away, Lexi, from someone saying, yeah, I'm 18. And it would appear that if I click the button saying I'm 18, even though I'm 13, I've just set myself up to possibly get $10,000, according to this bill. In the legal sense, that seems to create something called a moral hazard, don't you think, Lexi?
Listen, I was a child once. I remember being 10 years old, creating a Facebook account and clicking, are you 13 years or older? Saying, sure am.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. So at the end of the day, how do we enforce that? And you know what it reminds me of is, we see in estate planning, which you've been an intern now for 3 years, you said. So, oh my gosh, that flew by, Lexi. So you see this occasionally with clients who want to put terms in the estate planning documents about conditions or things, where someone can get this money so long as they don't do this. And this has to be enforceable. Like if you say, so long as they don't have a relationship with this other person, well, how do you measure that? Like, how do you enforce that? So the question here is about enforceability and whether or not you can actually enforce that. And I don't know. I think it's kind of it smacks to me of a Pyrrhic victory. It looks good on paper, but how is it actually going to play out? I don't know. If I was a tech company, I would be extremely nervous about this because at the end of the day, 10,000 in damages and 50,000 per violation plus attorney's fees and court cost, it could get expensive really fast to have a social media company in the state of Florida. So I don't know. Stay tuned for how this bill actually pays out. If you have any thoughts on this, 877-943-9673, 877-943-9673. You can give us a call now. We're live and local. Happy to take your question live on the air. We have Lexi, the intern, and her boyfriend, Christian. And Christian, it's Berberick?
Yes, Berberick.
Berberick. I'm going to get it right by the end of the show, Christian. I promise.
Sounds great.
And we will, he's here as well, the most outstanding senator from this year's 52nd annual model Senate. And I'm answering your legal questions today. So 877-943-9673. If you have a legal topic, you have a comment on the new social media bill passed banning those under 14 from having social media without parental consent, you can give us a call now, 877-943-9673. Also, in new law news, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, this also according to NBC, signs a bill squashing squatters' rights. You know, they were so happy to get that pun in the title. You can just feel it when you read it. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signs law squashing squatters' rights. Quote the governor, "We are putting an end to squatters' scams in Florida." Well, we'll see. So the governor passed this bill, and the heart and soul, I'll spare you the whole article. I hate reading copy on a live radio show, but the meat and potatoes of it. Under the law, a property owner can request law enforcement to immediately remove a squatter if the person is unlawfully entered, has refused to leave after being told by the homeowner to do so, and is not a current or former tenant in a legal dispute. The law also makes it a first-degree misdemeanor to make a false statement in writing or providing false documents conveying property rights, a second-degree felony for squatters who cause $1,000 or more in damages, and a first-degree felony for falsely advertising the sale or rent of a residential property without legal authority or ownership. So, yeah, I mean, because, you know, we have that question where we were seeing situations like these arise. And of course, law enforcement often trained in these situations. Hey, this is a civil matter. You need to solve this in the courts. There's nothing we can do criminally at this point. So this seems to give a little teeth to law enforcement to possibly take some legal action from the law enforcement perspective there. And of course, I've talked about it. I don't know, it was years ago at this point on the show where actually in our neighborhood, we had a situation where someone showed up at a neighbor's house, said, "Hey, yeah, we're here for the weekend." And they said, "Cool, who are you?" And someone had gotten a hold of their property, put it on Airbnb, and had Airbnb'd their property that weekend, and they weren't the owner. So this would give them a remedy for that, making something like that a second-degree felony at this point. And first-degree felony, because it would be falsely advertising the sale or rent of residential property. So, another new legislation supposedly solving the squatters' rights problem. I don't know that it solves it, but I definitely think it moves it the right direction. And I know we see far too often people say, well, legislation didn't fix the problem. It's not always going to fix it the first time out. The question is, does it make the situation better? And I think I applaud this legislation because it makes the situation better. It moves it in the right direction, and it gives law enforcement a chance to help these homeowners who are being victimized by these illegal squatters. Lexi, you have a thought on that?
So in my own personal family, we actually had an issue with squatters years ago. My mom had our old house from when I was a child. She rented it out to some friends, and they were there for years. Until she went into the house one day and the house was just destroyed. So she started, the process of getting them removed. And same thing, if she was told this is a civil matter, you're going to have to go through the civil litigation process to get them removed. For something, like gross stuff on the walls, tiles completely destroyed. But to watch my mom go through that. It's so sad. It's
Well,
your house.
Yeah, I mean, so and how much in damages do you think was done?
Oh, she had to replace like doors. She had to completely repaint walls. She had to redo all of the tile in the house. Windows were cracked. So I would say giving them the benefit of a minimum, maybe like 20,000.
Yeah, so it's well beyond the $1,000 or more in damages to make it a second-degree felony under the new bill. So, yeah, I've never heard that story in 3 years. So, wow, that's a fascinating tale. But I'm sure there's lots of you out there. If you have been a victim of squatters, call in. We'd love to talk to you too. 877-943-9673. You can share your tale of woe and what happened and how it ultimately remedied and how the new legislation might have saved you some time or money there. So 877-943-9673. This is the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. I'm your host, Attorney Patrick Smith. We're going to our first caller of the day. Let's go to St. Petersburg. Let's talk to Scott. Scott, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. How can we help you today?
Hey, good morning. Thanks for taking my call. So
Sure,
I have
Scott.
a question about at my job. I got put under suspension without pay, pending an investigation, and I work for a large healthcare company that takes care of the prisons in Florida.
Mhm.
And so I work at a small town. Everybody knows everybody, and we got a manager that came in about 6-8 weeks ago. I've worked with her at another facility, and she thought we were buddy-buddy, and she tried to ask me to forge documentation, and I refused. And that happened. She's kind of been hostile towards me. Well, about 2 weeks ago, she came in when I was alone, and she asked me again to forge some documentation, and she went absolutely crazy on me, yelling and this and that. And there's no recourse because all of our administrative bosses, etc., they've all been friends since they were in high school because it's a small little town. And you know, I'm missing out on rent. I'm missing out on money, my child support. I don't know if there's any way for me, because nobody's going to correlate it, because then they're going to become a target. So I don't know if there's any type of recourse for me to not only, I mean, we've had inmates dying from neglect, etc., and I don't know what to do, and I'm not sure if it's even something a lawyer could help me with.
All right. It sounds like there's lots of moving parts, Scott. Just to get first things first, you don't currently have representation on this case. You have no legal counsel?
No, sir.
Okay.
No.
I think, first of all, yes, you do need to speak to a labor law attorney. If you call me at the office on Monday, I'll put you in touch with a couple who will speak to you and kind of give you some specific advice. But just to tell you how that conversation is going to go, okay? They're going to want to know first thing, did you have a contract for your employment? Did you have an employment contract?
I mean, I'm a full-time employee. I don't know.
Yeah, that's not an employment contract. So you're an employee at will. So basically they could let you go for any
Oh, yes.
reason. And then it's going to turn to what can you produce in the way of evidence? And I think that's where the sticking point is. I don't know that you need to get into that live on the air with me now, but I would have that handy when you have the consultation with the labor law attorney. And, the unfortunate thing is you said you were suspended. I'm guessing you were suspended based on what you said without pay.
Yeah. Well, I got, because without pay, they're closing my insurance, everything. They screwed up. I got so angry that I took to my director and I said, I'm done. I'm going to call Human Resources. And I walked up. Going to end up getting me, and I understand that. But the fact that they can go through this stuff I just need to know if there's any recourse, because there's not going to be anybody correlating this.
Well, you could always go to your boss's boss and, just keep climbing the food chain, tell your story, and maybe someone up there will be able to give you some relief from the wrongdoing that you think you've suffered. Otherwise, I'll give out the office line as soon as we hang up, Scott, and you can call me on Monday. And like I said, I'll put you in touch with an employment or labor law attorney who can walk you through what legal remedies may be at your disposal.
Okay. Appreciate it.
All right, Scott. And do your best to enjoy the rest of your Easter weekend, okay?
Uh,
All right. God bless you. Yeah, the world's a tough place sometimes, and sometimes doing the right thing cost you. And Scott sounds like an example of that. So we'll be praying for Scott and that office line, Scott. And for those of you who want to call and schedule your complimentary consultation for any of the offices, 877-754-6764, 754-6764. That's for Sarasota, Sun City Center, definitely two of the most popular office locations because of all of you, the fantastic listeners of this show. Also, the number you would call for Clearwater. I was there yesterday. People were surprised that I was working on Good Friday. We're just that busy. I had so many clients who needed to meet with me that we were open, and I think I finally did my last appointment like noonish, so we did get out a little early. But yeah, so if you want to call and set up a consultation to discuss your estate planning, yes, we do the wills for $75, our trust packages for non-taxable estates less than 13.6 million estates for $695. That includes the trust, the pour over wills, power of attorneys, healthcare surrogates, living wills, and the deed for the homestead property. That office line to schedule your complimentary estate planning consultation, or if you're like Scott and you just need a referral to me to a different attorney who practices in a different area, you're welcome to call me. 877-754-6764. To be part of today's show, 877-943-9673. This is the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. I'm your host, Attorney Patrick Smith, Lexi the intern, and Christian Berberick. All right, I'm learning it. This year's winner from the 52nd Annual Model Senate with us in the studio also today. Next, we're going to go to LOL, and we're going to talk to Ryan. Ryan, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show.
Hey, Patrick, it's Chief Ryan Anthony with All Hazard Response. I got two really related and interesting stories to the squatters' rights. The first one, kind of local. A middle-aged gentleman passed away. The sheriff picked up his body, but he had been in this house for 3 years, and nobody could seem to get rid of him because it was an adult trailer park, and they couldn't find Mom, and Mom was on the lease, and he was there under a circumstance. Well, it turns out she had been dead in the bathroom for 3 years, and he was just squatting, and yet, because of the laws at the time, they could not force him out. And I think with the new law, it would have shown that he would have to provide proof, or they would have been able to exit him. And then the second one that's related is we had another client that showed a house, and the people just moved in, no key, no agreement, no money, no nothing, and it took 9 months to evict them.
So, okay, I have several. First of all, you said Chief Ryan was your name?
Yeah, Chief, it's my title. I run All Hazard Response. We have three stations
this
throughout
is
Florida.
that
we
Ryan. Yeah,
spoke
I know
before.
who you
Yes,
are
sir.
now. Okay, yes, Ryan. Okay, I'm not surprised you called in with this story, but I am surprised at the story. So let me just go back. And for those of you eating breakfast, I'm going to give you the disclaimer. You probably want to turn this down if what I heard Ryan say was accurate. So just go ahead and turn it down. And if you got little ears, you may want to turn this one down just for the next 2 or 3 minutes. Did you say that the gentleman was living in the home and mother had passed away in the bathroom, and he lived in the home for years with a dead body in the bathroom?
Absolutely correct. And yep, she was actually overlooked when the sheriff came and looked for they grabbed his body. They did a quick inspection, but they missed the fact that she was on the floor in the bathroom.
Well, in their defense, if you smell, okay, so you know what dead body smells like. If you've smelled it, you'll never forget it.
Correct. But after about 3 to 5 months of the floor to heat, you kind of mummify.
Right. But in the same time, in the defense of the sheriff's office here, if you if you smell it, you're not smelling like, okay, that smells like 2 dead bodies. Like, you can't distinguish the number of dead bodies, really. So if they smelled it and they said,
yeah.
Okay, so you had to go in. I presume you guys were the cleanup crew on this?
Correct. We cleaned up his situation, and then as we were cleaning out the rest of the house contents, because there was no next of kin, my assistant goes, "There's a foot," and I'm like, "That happens sometimes," and she's like, "No, there's a whole body," and I'm like, "Oh." So yeah, we had to make another phone call and had a secondary crime scene that held us up for several hours.
Have you sold like the rights to a reality show to like Netflix yet, Ryan?
We've had offers, but nobody has come through. So
that's fascinating to me because I would watch this show after I've eaten. It sounds now. Was the air still working in this home?
No, the air had not worked in the house probably in a couple of years, so it was subject to the serious changes. And there were 4 cats too that didn't survive and were there as well.
Were there any cats that did survive? Is there a silver lining to the story?
No. Everything in that house was in a better place.
Yeah. Yeah, Ryan, that sounds like that. And number two, there were no dead bodies in the second example, right?
No. We had completely renovated the house, turned it. We're getting ready to run it. It was perfect condition, and these people just basically looked at it, moved in, and then destroyed it. And the whole house had to be redone.
And this was your property, correct?
It was one of my clients' properties.
One of your clients' properties. People just moved in, destroyed it. Well, it sounds like under the governor's new legislation,
They would have been gone.
Yeah, exactly. So now you got this ability to really charge them with felonies and get them out and give it a little more teeth at the law enforcement. Well, Ryan, as usual, fantastic call. We really appreciate you and thank you. Go ahead and take 30 seconds, plug your business for anybody out there who may have a, and we think about this, Ryan, the first scenario, obviously an extreme example. It may not be like that, but we see cases all the time where someone has passed and the family comes in and basically discovers how they were living and it's not salvageable. And then they need someone like Ryan to go in and basically just do a clean out. So it's not always like a dead bodies in the bathroom for a couple years scenario that necessitates a Ryan. Sometimes it's just, hey, these people just need the house cleaned out. And you guys do that job as well, correct?
So, yep, we do post 911 cleanups as well as hoarding, odors, bacterial, viral, COVID. We do it all. So anything that is kind of beyond the normal cleaning standards, we can bring back to normal. We can be reached at allhazardresponse.org, 855-ALL-HAZARDS, or 813-751-7036. And we hope you never need us, but if you do, we are here.
Well, Ryan, if I get you a television deal, can I get a production credit?
I absolutely. We'd love to share our knowledge as well as educate people the necessity of our service, because when a family has had to do this themselves, I've seen tears in even the strongest men's eyes, and it's not reasonable for somebody to do it themselves.
Well, and here's the thing too. I think that's there's this fallacy in thinking that tough men don't cry. One of the greatest gifts my father ever gave me, Ryan, was showing me that the strongest of men, the strength is showing that emotion to those and being vulnerable with those around us and not being a stoic. So, I think there's nothing wrong with showing emotion. I think it's quite I think it's a strong man who can show emotion, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So,
and absolutely what you do as well is important, because a lot of my clients needed or will need your services, because estates and estate planning and post-death is a huge thing.
Well, Ryan, I appreciate you saying that, and I hope you have a fantastic Easter weekend. Okay.
You too, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you too.
877-943-9673. That's your live and local studio line to be part of today's show. Yumiko, go ahead and queue up the nursing home audio. Do you have that ready? So we'll talk about that in a second. 877-943-9673. You can give us a call now, live and local. Chief Ryan, always a fantastic caller, but I'm going to have nightmares about that call, Lexi. I don't know about you, but that was disturbing. Can you imagine living in the house and just thinking, well, do you just use the other bathroom?
I would assume this feels very like Bates Motel.
I'm a little bit surprised that you know that reference. So, because you're 21. Yeah. I'm surprised you know that reference, but Lexi was responsible for one of the first times I ever felt old, when we were having a conversation and I realized I'm old enough to be her father. And I said, my gosh, that just means I'm getting up there now. 877-943-9673. That's your live and local number to be part of today's show. 877-943-9673. Yumiko, do you remember the source on this? What the name on the account was? Do you have that?
Let me.
That's
check.
a weird name for an account, but okay. Let me count. No, I'm just kidding. I'm messing with you. Do we not know the source?
Let me look.
All right, look it up, and I'll give out the number again, the office line, if you want to schedule your complimentary consultation. 877-754-6764. 877-754-6764 to schedule your complimentary consultation to be part of the show. 877-943-9673. And Yumiko, I'll go ahead and take a call so you have a minute to look that. So don't stress yourself out. We'll come back to that. Let's go to Joanne in Sarasota. Joanne, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. How are you today, Joanne?
I'm great. I'm vertical and moving forward.
Are you excited about my appearance at the Meadows?
Well, that was one thing I was going to check on with you. When has it been set up? I haven't heard.
Let me see if I can search it real quick. My phone is normally how I search that, and my phone is currently doing the Instagram.
Well, not to worry. I'll find out. I'll call Sue Monday.
But I know it has been scheduled, so I'm checking go ahead with your question while I look it up.
Okay, my question is this. I want to leave something to a couple of schools that my grandson went to, and they happen to be private Christian schools. Can it be done, for instance, when a piece of property is sold after my death? Can I allocate a portion of the proceeds?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm looking now. I see the email chain, and you can tell how untechnologically savvy I am when just navigating email is difficult, Joanne.
That means you're engaged with the world and not with technology.
You know what, Joanne? I love how you're a glass half full person. So thank you for your kind words. I do see it.
Well, I'll find out.
Discussed here. So I'm trying to see it. It's weird. It won't. All right. It says.
And the other question, do you have sort of a worksheet of information that you like a client to have before they come see you? I think I've gone as far to find out where your office is in Lakewood Ranch.
Yeah, there's really no worksheet. We tried that years ago, Joanne, but what I quickly discovered are states are like snowflakes, and no two are identical. And by the time I had a worksheet, as you call it, it looked like a small phone book. And I just decided then, some tens of thousands of clients ago, that I was going to handle it informally with just a sit down. And that's why I offer the complimentary consultation, because some estates get into, well, we have minor children and those issues. Some people are charitably minded like you are. Some people have special needs beneficiaries or substance abuse situations. So it's really just a matter of kind of honing in what is going to best meet that family's needs and optimize their planning. So there's no preset list. I would say if you have a goal to have something done as far as pre-planning, just have a rough idea of who you want in charge and who you want the beneficiaries to be. And if you can sort of give an initial round of answers to that, that will help us prepare round one of the drafts. And that's another thing I see all the time. People come in expecting to do a final version in that very first appointment, and that's not the goal. Our goal is to come up with a rough draft so that you can review, edit, modify, mull, pray, debate, whatever, and then come up with your final version. And know also that the final version you've done is usually amendable. We can change it down the road as life changes. And I tell clients, and I say this all the time on the air, biggest mistake in estate planning, people don't do it, but a very close second, in my opinion, people don't update what they've done.
Oh, and so what I have, I think is so convoluted. And I'm really a very... I'm not a wealthy woman at all. And I think they made it so convoluted. I'm thinking, I think it needs to be simplified. And the final question is, I'm thinking of asking a non-family member to be executrix on the will. It's someone I just really feel I trust, rather than a family member, because everybody's somewhere else, if you know what I'm saying. They're all in the Northeast spread around. What do you think about that?
I think if it's what makes Joanne happy, do it. I mean, I think that far too many people in your generation, Joanne, feel this duty to do something that makes others happy. And when it comes to your planning, do what makes you happy. If you want to leave it all to the church, and I'm making lots of churches happy saying that Easter weekend, if you want to leave it all to the church, leave it all to the church, leave it all to a university, leave it all to a family friend, leave it all to the kids, do whatever you like. And have
your child hate you, wow.
Well, and here's the thing. I'm not saying don't leave it to the kids. I'm just saying, look, it's your money and you can do with it as you please. So I think that's the main thing. Do whatever gives you peace of mind.
Well, private parochial schools are getting more and more important every day, I feel.
Well, I feel like education in general is important, but yeah, I don't disagree with what you're saying. And I think that, education is one of the keys to sort of raising the tide of our general populace. I think the better access we have to all education, period, parochial or otherwise, is a good idea, Joanne. So I'm on board with your idea.
Okay. And hopefully your meeting down here isn't too far out. I want people to come see you.
September 24th at 11 a.m.
Well, it's definitely not in the season, right? But you can come back again.
I like that you're already booking me for my return visit, and I haven't even spoken there, Joanne. So I'm getting an encore, and I haven't even given the performance. I love that.
Hey, why not?
Yeah,
right?
So I believe that's the date. They gave us several times, but all of them were sort of in the afternoon or evening. And this one was at 11 a.m. on September 24th, which was actually the first one to work out for my calendar. So stay tuned. We'll let you know if something happens sooner than that, or if you want to book the encore date, we'll go ahead and book that too. But right now, what I'm looking at says Tuesday, September 24th at 11 a.m.
Right. Well, thank you very much. I look forward to it.
Well, Joanne, likewise, look forward to meeting you
I
and
need
enjoy
to see you before that, or someone in your firm before that, to get this revamped will going. Though.
Well, you know how to get a hold of me. Call the office. They'll get you on the calendar. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. 877-943-9673. And have a happy Easter, Joanne. I forgot to tell you that. Have a wonderful Easter weekend. Joanne, one of our regular callers, probably right up there with Patricia from Lakewood Ranch as far as one of our routine callers. So speaking of speaking engagements, I do want to get a couple of announcements out, and then we're going to talk to Mike about another hoarders story. It says it's a great story about hoarders. Mike, that's setting the bar high. I hope you're going to live up to that. So speaking engagements, we've got a couple coming up this week. Tuesday, April 2nd at 5:30 p.m. at Royal Highlands up in Leesburg, Florida. I will be speaking to the Royal Highlands Veterans Group. And I love speaking to veterans groups. I'm the son and a grandson and a great-grandson of veterans, and absolutely love speaking before our veterans. So that will be this Tuesday, April 2nd, 5:30 p.m. And speaking of veterans, Wednesday, my speaking engagement is also before veterans. But this is actually the Military Officers Association of America. Again, MOA. And that will be Wednesday, April 3rd at noon in Sun City Center. And we will be proud to be with you guys and doing our presentation there as well. So if you have a group or organization that needs a speaker, like Joanne down at the Meadows, or the Veterans Group at Royal Highlands, or the Military Officers Association of America in Sun City Center, you can reach out to the office line, and they'll be happy to book me to come out and speak to your group. We waive our fees, by the way. There's no speaker's fee or anything to come and speak to your group. 877-754-6764. That's the number for the office line to book us for a speaking engagement for your club, group, or organization, or to schedule us for your complimentary consultation. 877-754-6764. To talk to us today, 877-943-9673. Your live and local studio line, open lines, call screener standing by to get you live on the air. And as promised, Mike from St. Pete. Mike, welcome to the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. And we're all on bated breath for this great story about hoarders. Mike, are you on a boat?
No, I'm in my car. I have you on the speaker, but
can you take us off speaker and pick up your handset?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing now.
You're
sir.
the best, Mike.
Is that better?
That's much better. It doesn't sound like you're doing 30 knots in a center console. So, okay, great.
First of all, thank you for your support of the veterans. I am a veteran. Joanne can send me all of her money if she would like. But it actually happened. I was on an 18-month deployment in Iraq. Somebody moved into my NCO's house, lived there for a year. When we got back, they would not kick them out. So we got full battle rattle, dressed up, took a Humvee, put them all in cuffs, dropped them off at the edge of town. But that was in Texas, and they would do nothing to get these people out.
So did you just say you took the law into your own hands out in Texas?
Yeah, and looking back, it was very wrong, but he was very upset. I mean, it was a brand new house he bought in Killeen, Texas. So,
one of my adages I live my life by, I live my life by a couple of adages. One, I'll try most things once. And then another one is I'd rather regret the things I've done than the things I haven't done, Mike. So what did you do? Which branch of the service? Were you U.S. Army? Were you a Marine?
Army, yes, sir.
Well, thank you for your service. My father, a proud member of the United States Army, he was with the 127 Wolfhounds of the 25th Infantry in 69 and 70 over in Vietnam. So what did you do for the Army?
I was a Cav Scout, 19 Delta, forward observers.
How many years?
I did 6 years.
Wow, God bless you. So you retired?
I retired at the E5. I did 18 months in Iraq, and I only made it 4 months in Afghanistan before I got hurt.
Well, Mike, we thank you for your sacrifice and for your service. And I'm glad you and nobody was hurt, by the way, in this sort of.
No,
Okay.
nobody was hurt. But it was just, it's always been a really funny story to me because we called the police and they're like, no, there's nothing we could do because they were living there for a year by that time.
Yeah, it's
So,
a hilarious story to the guy in battle gear. Like, yeah, to the guy in
know,
the house.
looking
This is
back,
not
I
a hilarious
terrified
story, Mike.
We had to have terrified those poor people, and
Yeah.
I feel bad about it. But my buddy, his family got their house back. So
Yeah, the guy in the house had to change his pants after that, I'm sure. So, well, Mike, great story. You definitely lived up to the hype. And again,
all
thank you
right,
for your service.
I hope so. Thank
And
you, sir.
have a
good
happy
day.
Easter. Yes, sir. 877-943-9673. That's your live and local number. 877-943-9673. Did you find the source, Yumiko? What's our source?
Yeah, it's AVSY 5738NDCJW.
Well, at least it rolls off the tongue. All right. So what I'm going to do, we have just a couple minutes left in the show. I'm going to play some audio. Yumiko, I'll tell you to stop when I want you to stop, but I'm playing this audio not as an endorsement of the audio. I'm going to use it as a teaching tool. So with the 4 minutes-ish we have left, and I may trickle over into our next episode, go ahead and start the audio, Yumiko.
A secret I learned while working in a nursing home is that if you're rich enough to afford a lawyer, you probably pay no dollars per month for that nursing home.
All right, go ahead and stop. Rich enough to afford a lawyer. It's true. Some lawyers, I guess you have to be rich to afford. My philosophy, I like to make my offices accessible to people. That's why the wills are $75. It's why the trust packages are $695. So again, it is a little bit of a myth that you have to be rich to afford a lawyer. So I wanted to spell that number one. Go ahead, Yumiko, continue.
But if you're middle class, you probably pay like $100,000 a year. Let me simply explain. Medicare is what everyone over age 65 gets. That pays for your hospital stay, your doctor's visits, your medications. Medicaid is for low income, and it also pays for nursing homes. So you worked your whole life, you've built up this huge retirement amount. You go into a nursing home, and you're not eligible for this low income program because you have all this money. So you give it all to the nursing home till you have none left. And then, of course, there's no money left for your kids. Now, here's what rich people know.
All right, stop for a second. So what she just described there is what we call the classic spend down. Someone goes in a nursing home, they spend all their money, they look up and they say, my gosh, I'm impecunious, I need state assistance. It's called the classic spend down approach. All right, Yumiko, continue.
That low income program only looks back 5 years. So 5 years and 1 day before you think you need to go into a nursing home, you can transfer all that money into your kid's name. And then when it comes time for you to go into a nursing home, it looks like you have no money.
Stop
So
there. All right, first of all, how many of you out there can tell me exactly 5 years before you go into a nursing home? My crystal ball's broken. I pick it up on Monday. How are you supposed to predict that? And then also this idea that you can just give it away to your kids and everything's all better. There are gift taxes. If you just give your stuff away, there's a present interest annual exclusion. It's currently $18,000 per person per year. Otherwise, you have to file a 709 account for those. Florida has a 3-prong test, by the way, for Medicaid planning, for asset protection for those in nursing home. Level of need, level of asset, level of income. There's exemptions through good planning, good trust planning, will planning, power of attorney, healthcare service. You build an infrastructure around all your stuff so that when that day comes, you can ideally have someone, presuming you're not able to plan for yourself, someone to stand in your stead and reposition wealth into exempt categories to qualify you without triggering this look back period, without you having to give away all your stuff, without you being exposed to the possibility of big gift taxes. So I played that as an example of, please don't take legal advice from unlicensed attorneys. And, if it's your cousin or your next door neighbor's best friend's dog catcher's sister or whatever, if they're not a licensed attorney, call one. That's why we do this show. Call in, tell us what you heard from some unauthorized attorney, unlicensed practitioner of law, and we will be happy to give you the correct answer as we did there. The spirit of it about planning is a good idea. But this sort of draconian approach and this dichotomy that you either have to spend down or give it all away is definitely an extremist approach for Florida residents. There's better planning options available under Florida law. So we would encourage you to sit down with an attorney. If you want to sit down with us, 877-754-6764. That's your toll-free line to schedule your complimentary consultation with me, Attorney Patrick Smith, 877-754-6764. Lexi, the intern, thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thank you very much for welcoming us back.
And you're going to be back for the summer.
Sure
so,
am.
So you'll be around on the show for the summer. And Christian, again, congratulations on winning this year's Model Senate. It was an impressive performance. And would you consider coming back as a judge?
In the future, yes. Yeah, me and Lexi have already talked about coming back years from now.
We're not going to have you do it in the past, I promise. Go ahead, Lexi.
We do have a running joke that instead of the Patrick L. Smith Model United States Senate, one day we're going to change it to the Alexis and Christian Burbrick Model United States Senate.
We can do that now for the right amount. So let's start negotiating. So, all right, 877-943-9673. That's your live and local number for next week. I'm Attorney Patrick Smith. This is the Attorney Patrick Smith Show. We'll be back with you live next Saturday. To reach me then, 877-943-9673. The office line, 877-754-6764. God bless. Stay safe. Go Gators.